Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Mr. Pad Paramahansa for the Vijayacharya Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa for the Vijayacharya Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Oh, I forgot. Narayanam Namaskritya. Narayanam Namaskritya. Narang Chaiva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 18th day of December 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We're in the 7th canto, The Science of God. 4th chapter, Hiranyakashipu terrorizes the universe, text 21. Can someone turn this down just a little bit? Thank you. Tasyogra danda sambignaha sarve lokaha sapalakaha anyatra labdha sadanaha sharanam yayur achyutam tasyogradanda samvignah sarve loka sapalaka anyatra labdha sadana sadanang yoyur achyutam tasyogradanda samvignah sarve loka sapalaka anyatra labdha sadana sadanang yoyur achyutam tasyogradanda samvignah sarve loka sapalaka anyatra labdha sadana sadanam yoyur achyutam tasyogradanda samvignah sarvaloka sapalaka anyatra labdha sadana sadanam yayurachyutam tasyogradanda samvignah sarve loka sapalaka anyatra labdha sadana sadanam yayurachyutam tasyogra sangdadam bindha sarve loka sapalaka anyatra labdha sadana sadanam yayurachyutam tasyogra danda samvignah sarve loka sapalaka anyatra labdha sadana sadanam yayurachyutam. Anyone else? Tasyogradanda samvignah sarve loka sapalaka anyatra labdha sadana sadanam yayur achyutam tasya. Go ahead.
Tasyogradanda samvignah
Tasyogradanda samvignah
sarve loka sapalaka
sarve loka sapalaka
anyatra labdha sarana
anyatra labdha sadana
saranam ayur achyutam
sadanam yayur achyutam. Tasya, of him, Hiranyakashipu, Ugradanda, by the very fearful chastisement, Sabvignaha, disturbed, Sarve, all, Lokaha, the planets, Sapalakaha, with their principal rulers, Anyatra, anywhere else, Alabdha, not obtaining, Shadanaha, shelter, Shadanam, for shelter, Yayuhu, approached, Achyutam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation. Everyone, including the rulers of the various planets, was extremely distressed because of the severe punishment inflicted upon them by Hiranyakashipu. Fearful and disturbed, unable to find any other shelter, they at last surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Purport. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 5:29, Those who know it can chant along. Bhoktaram yajñatapasang sarvaloka maheshwaram sudidang sarvabhutanam gatpamam shantamrichati. Okay, for extra credit. What did Prabhupada call this verse? The peace formula, right? Shantamrichati. Translation: the sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain, it's the sages, they attain. It says attains. Okay. They fixed the sages, but they didn't fix the verb. So, the sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. Close quote. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is actually the best friend of everyone. In a condition of distress or misery, one wants to seek shelter of a well-wishing friend. The well-wishing friend of the perfect order is Lord Sri Krishna. In other words, the perfect well-wishing friend is Lord Sri Krishna. Therefore, all the inhabitants of the various planets, being unable to find any other shelter, were obliged to seek shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Friend. If, from the very beginning, we seek shelter of the Supreme Friend, there will be no cause of danger. It is said that if a dog is swimming in the water and one wants to cross the ocean by catching hold of the dog's tail, certainly he's foolish. Similarly, if in distress one seeks shelter of a demigod, he is foolish, for his efforts will be fruitless. In all circumstances, one should seek shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then there will be no danger under any circumstances. Om Jnana Timurandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, Hiranyakashipu has been tormenting everyone in the universe, even the demigods, except for three. Who can say who they were? And Shiva. Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. Because Vishnu is not really a demigod, but he's in that role of the triple authorities who are in charge of each of the different modes of nature. So he's tormenting everyone. Even Narada Muni explains he had to bow down to him, which is amazing. But the demigods are very distressed, and so they're taking shelter of Lord Krishna. This is not the first time we see that in the Bhagavatam. When we read the 6th canto, we remember that the demigods were tormented by, Vitrasura. And so they took shelter of Vishnu. And he said, okay, you go to Dadichi, right? And you beg him for his body, and from his bones you create an infallible thunderbolt and give it to Indra. And that's what they did, and then that helped them to get over the problem. So the same thing is going on now, and I think what happens, I didn't look ahead, is that Krishna assures them that he's coming. He's going to take care of the problem. We still haven't seen the first encounter between Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad yet. The famous question, what did you learn in school today? And then he reveals, Tatsarumanne Sudavahyadehinam Sadasam Vignadiyama Sadgrahat Hitvatpapatam Griyamandakupam Vanam Gatoyad Hadamashriyeta. Just imagine that scene. It's going to come up soon. That here's this slight little boy, 5 years old, and this monstrous demon who's conquered the entire universe happens to be his father. And he asked him the question. He could have literally said, I learned who is the enemy, who is the friend, how to make peace, which is what he expects him to learn. But no, very fearlessly, said, well, the best thing, oh father, sadhu, by the way, is a very versatile word. It doesn't just mean a sadhu. As an adjective, it means very good, bravo. Like sometimes Krishna will dance very nicely or sing, and his friends will say, sadhu, sadhu, meaning bravo, bravo, So here he said, the best thing I learned, oh father, Best thing for whom? Prabhupada says on the tape when he explains this verse. For the living entities, dehinam, those who are embodied souls, and who are always disturbed because they're taking shelter of the impermanent. They're taking shelter of the impermanent. In other words, something that cannot give you true shelter. The body and all the other impermanent things. So, what's the solution? Hit vatmapatam, griham andakupam. You have to give up this household life, which is nothing but a blind well. You know, we don't know what a blind well is here in America, but in a place where you don't have, running water in all the apartments and everything, you have to dig wells in order to get water. So there's a lot of wells in India, and sometimes you use them a long time and they go dry. Then they get overgrown with foliage. It's very dangerous. You're walking in the forest, whatever you're doing, and you fall into the well, you're alone, you're helpless, you crawl. Prabhupada says you just die crying. So that, he compares that to materialistic household life. Like a blind well, you get in it and it's very difficult to get out of it. And it's death for the soul kind of thing. So what's the solution? Give up that, blind well and go to the forest and take shelter of Krishna. He says Hari, take shelter of Hari. And the forest is understood to be Vrindavan. That's not what he wanted to hear. That's not what he expected to hear. So I'm not going to get into it now, but that's coming up. But here, now we're hearing about the incredible extent of Hiranyakashipu's terrorizing and his dominance of the universe is amazing. So here the Devas, they're going to take shelter of Vishnu, and what you take shelter of is like the whole ball game in material life, because material life is inevitably either now or sometime soon going to cause you great distress. What do? If you're a total materialist, you have to find something material. You go out and try to make money, you try to cheat someone out of money, you rob someone. Usually 99% of the time is money problems, or at least they define it as such. I can't live in a nice neighborhood, what can I do, Or you get some disease, healthcare in America is insane. And so you get sick and you can't pay for it. That's another terrible situation. So there's a whole lot of distress, but people are worried. A lot of it is mental distress, worrying about what's going to happen or what has happened or who left me or who's tormenting me or whatever. So that's material life, especially in Kali Yuga. So what to do? Take shelter of Krishna. So the question is, how do we take shelter of Krishna here at this time in us? And the most important thing, first of all, is to meet a pure devotee. And the best way to meet a pure devotee now is to read the books. That's the first thing. Of course, it's important to be able to associate with devotees who are following the pure devotee, in other words. But pure devotees are rare, one who's 100% of the time, 24 hours a day, chanting Hare Krishna, and completely, not easy. But if you can come in touch with this guy, just like we hear these wonderful stories, the Sankirtan devotees, this is the most, out of all millions of birds, for someone to be wandering around in Balboa Park or the zoo. Isn't the zoo part of the park, or it's right near the park, right? Yeah, and so, and to meet a devotee who's selling the books written by a pure devotee, which can give him the shelter, and you tell these stories. Well, you gave someone the mantra, and they said that was the greatest. That was how they got through difficulty. Yeah, that's it. That's how we are, able to live and tolerate the things in this world. We all experience the relief and the shelter of Krishna's holy name, and everything that emanates from it, that is expanded. Which is this whole movement: the temples, the deities, the prasadam, the devotees, the books, everything. And so. We can relate to this. Fearful and disturbed, unable to find any other shelter, they at last surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. So it always comes back to that. It always comes back to that. If you read the Bhagavad Gita, you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it means taking shelter of the holy name, Krishna in the form of the holy name, or Krishna himself in the form of Lord Chaitanya or Krishna, or They're empowered representatives who can direct you to Krishna. We have to always remember that Krishna is always there. He's always with us. He's 100%. This morning I was, as I may explain sometimes before, and you'll discover if you just read the books that there are certain sections that form a complete lesson in the Bhagavad Gita and in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam, they're usually longer, like the 9 Yogendras, the 9 sons of Rishabdev who took sannyas out of the 100, and they wandered the universe. And the Yogendras, they're masters of yoga, and they're great devotees. So who's the king they meet? I forget who they teach in the 11th canto. Nimi, I think it's Maharaj Nimi. And so he greets them, they come flying in, they can go just like the Kumars. And he starts asking them questions, and each one of the 9 gives a little lesson. And they're very much quoted. Like, one of them gives a lesson which is who was the avatar, for this age. Krishna Varnam Trisha Krishnam. That's part of the teachings of the 9 Yogendras. Of course, it's Lord Chaitanya. And then I think it's in that series that he describes maybe at a different Yogendra. That Lord Chaitanya, I think when he was speaking to Prakashananda Saraswati, he said, my spiritual master then taught me a verse that he says is the most important verse in the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. Well, got to learn that one, right? And it's about chanting. How does it start? I forget how it starts now. But it describes that one who has great faith in the holy name and chants purely, then he starts to experience all of these symptoms, of horripilation, hair standing on end, and all of these different things. He's just explaining the results of chanting. And another Yogendra explains the different levels of devotees. The one where he says, Ishvare tadarideshu baliseshu jisachacha. This is the Majjhima Adhikari. There's the Uttama Adhikari, Majjhima Adhikari, and Kanishta Adhikari. So it's important to know, Prabhupada wanted us to strive to become at least a Majjhima Adhikari, because this is one of the level on which you preach, Ishvare tadarideshu baliseshu jisachacha. These are describing 4 different categories of beings. And here's how the Majjhima Adhikari relates to all of them. Prema, Maitri, Kripopeksha, and then the Asura, I forget, and he neglects the demons. So for the Lord, you try to develop prema, love. For the devotees, friendship. For the innocent, you show compassion, try to give them Krishna consciousness. And for the evil demons, you ignore them, you neglect them. You don't get into debates with them and everything, you just ignore them. So anyway, this is the Bhagavatam is filled with that, and we're going to get so many lessons here from these verses that are following, the chapters that are following. A whole chapter where Prahlad's teachings to his friends. Now this is a tremendous act of sedition. He's not just like a problem because he's a devotee, but he's trying to make others devotees. He's undermining the whole kingdom. This wonderful kingdom of demons that Hiranyakashipu has had great effort with all that austerity to become powerful. And his little son is undermining that. Kill him! Couldn't kill him. But he was so fearless that he did that, and that's really the mark of the fearlessness, where you're not only ready to be a devotee, but ready to preach devotional service against, this. Prabhupada would often cite Jesus Christ as an example, who fearlessly preached even though he was threatened and he was crucified. So that's what we're going to see with Hiranyakashipu. And he's like, every good story requires a villain. So we have a lot of villains in Bhagavatam. The Vrindavan leader, the Krishna book, they come every day, right? The big villain is Kamsa. He's sending all these other villains. And Krishna dispatches them in all of these wonderful ways, which provide great topics for the devotees to discuss and relish, isn't it? This is the coward boy. Just think how fortunate they are. They're playing with Krishna. he's so merciful that he hides his divinity from them so that they can, what kind of a big man are you? And climbs on his back, and then, so the intimacy of love and friendship is not impeded by this awe and reverence. Krishna talks about, Lord Chaitanya talks about that in the 4th chapter, Adi Lila, very important chapter. And as Krishna speaking, as he's ready to come down as Lord Chaitanya, and he says, the affection of my devotees that's weakened by all of this awe and reverence, it doesn't please me very much. He's much more interested in being chastised by his mother. That he likes that much more. That's someone who's simply always afraid of him. And you say, like that. So that's only in bhakti, So here this Prabhupada quotes this verse, Bhoktaram Yagitapasam, and he gave it this designation, the peace formula. Now that comes in at the end there. So what's the qualifications to really experience peace? Because Krishna gives the promise, Gyatva Mam Shantamicchati. One who knows these things about me, who really knows and believes it and lives it, he will have peace. So the first one is Bhoktaram Yagitapasam. Of course, this is a million miles away from Hiranyakashipu. But this is what the demigods are, devotees really, and they have this faith. So that Krishna, he says Mams, Lord Krishna, is the enjoyer, Bhoktara, of all the sacrifices and all austerities. Now he's meant to be, but people who are not so dedicated to Krishna or confused, not so wise, they worship the demigods. They think, you remember the first offense, the second offense, to think the holy name of Krishna, of the demigods, is equal to or independent of the holy name of Krishna, right? So, equal means that they think, okay, I can get certain things from Krishna, but I can't get everything. I need to also worship Shiva and Brahma. And I've been to temples like that. When I used to go to Winnipeg every year, the devotees would be able to have a little program in a Hindu temple. And there's the altar, and there you have Shiva, and you have Durga, you have Lakshmi Narayan, Ganesh is there for sure. There's a whole panoply. Whatever you need, you can go to one or the other. Or let's go to all of them. That way we'll be safe and get everything we need. You don't realize you just worship Lakshmi Narayan, just worship Radha Krishna, you get everything. So that's an offense against the holy name. To think that you have to go elsewhere to worship others in order to get everything. I can't get everything from Krishna. And I have to be careful, because I know that Krishna takes everything away. He's Hari. So I better hedge my bets and pray to Shiva for prosperity, and Ganesh especially, So but here, all the yajnas and all the austerities, Krishna's meant for. Don't do any austerities that's not meant for pleasing Krishna. And he tells you which ones to do. Especially in this age, don't bother with these extreme austerities. The austerity is the yajna, and the austerity is Sankirtan. Yajna Sankirtana Praya Yajantihi Sumedasa. I heard Prabhupada give a lecture, he's talking about that word Sumedasa. Now Medasa, he would say brain substance, right? I'm not sure if you look in the dictionary, it won't be intelligence or whatever, but he always sees that, because he was taught, that if you have more brain substance, then you're smarter. So anyway. But in other words, one who's intelligent will worship Krishna. If you believe the Bhagavad Gita, he's meant to be the enjoyer of all the sacrifices and all the... In fact, one of the names of Vishnu is Yajna. Yajna means sacrifice, and it also means Vishnu. So, that's the first thing. Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, the Lord of all planets. Now this is a direct challenge to Hiranyakashipu. He's now become the Lord of all planets, and he thinks it's permanent. No one can kill me, right? Because I got my blessings from Brahma. So he's fool number one, ultimately. But this is the direct, that what the demons do. They try to dominate, the whole universe, or at least part of it, because they're Ishwaroham Aham Bhogi. I am the Lord, Ishwaroham. I am the enjoyer, not Krishna. Bhoktaram Bhogi is the same word. But then the key here for devotees is Sudidam Sarvabhutanam. So Krishna is the enjoyer of all the sacrifices. He's the great Ishvara, but he's not dominating it like some demon. He is our best friend, Sudidam. This is the famous well-wisher. Prabhupada would always sign his letters, "You're ever well-wisher." That's a position of the Super Soul, of Krishna. And Prabhupada, as his representative, is also our ever well-wisher. So one who knows that, then he can attain peace. Just the opposite, what are we describing now? What is the Bhagavatam describing? That the demigods were anything but peaceful. Because they were demanded that all their yajnas, all their tapasas, all their efforts go to please Hiranyakashipu, but he was anything but their well-wisher. He was their tormentor. In fact, the whole chapter terrorizes the universe. So this is the difference. If you really have faith that Krishna is the ultimate controller, and that he is our best friend, that he has our interest in mind. In other words, if you perform some yajna for Krishna, for sacrifice, then it's not that he needs something from us. It's not that he's going to take our effort and build a bigger Vaikuntha that he can enjoy. He doesn't need us. It's our interest to perform on austerity, to fast on Ekadasi, or to go on Sankirtan. It's in our interest to perform the austerity for Krishna. It's in our interest to perform the yajna. And that's why so he's the best friend. The eternal. Prabhupada described one lecture, what does this surit means? It means that in every instance, because there are different types of friends, surit is the most intimate friend. The surit is one who always, always, always has your best interest at heart. You have an ordinary friend, he may be an intimate friend, bosom buddy, what you call, But, if you say, well, I'm really in trouble, can I stay at your place for, a little while? Said, okay, sure, no, why not? I got an extra couch in the living room. But if it goes into 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, there comes a point where the friend says, okay, that's it. I'm going to invite some people over, you got to get out, In other words, there's always a limit when material friendship. But there's no limit to Krishna's friendship. Life after millions of lives, he's staying with us as the super soul, guiding us, gradually bringing us up to human life, then trying to give us good advice. We don't want it, and down we go, So who could be a better friend than that? And so someone who knows this can attain actual peace. And those who don't know it cannot attain peace. Because they're trying, just like now, there's two main wars going on. Horrific, suffering from them, and there's a lot of little conflicts going on, and people are all over the world are in great anxiety, and plus you have as a result of human mismanagement, let's call it, you have the climate change going on. The world is becoming more unlivable. We might think, well, how could we change that? Well, we could. After pumping out so many greenhouse gases, then 1 or 2 degrees, the ocean becomes too warm, and then the hurricane become more powerful, and so many things happen. Greenland is melting. If the whole thing melts, then 10, 20 feet, right here. Are you ready for that? The ocean come up. May happen. Not in my lifetime, but some of you younger guys. So you can imagine how much anxiety that is for the 15 and 16 and 18-year-olds who read all this stuff. They keep up with it. What's my future? Our elders say, well, their lives are over already. They can. It's horrible. So, but if we follow the principles of the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam and all the books, which is really the simple living and high thinking. It kind of sounds a little trite, but it's very, very deep and profound. Simple living means, as it's explained in the Bhagavatam 2nd chapter, 1st canto, Kamasinandaya priti labo jiveti yabata. Life's desires are not meant to try to increase your sense gratification, kama. Indriya priti. Kama, labo jiveti yabata. Live as simply as possible. Just live, take what you need. Then what should I direct my energy toward, rather than making money and enjoying? Jivasya tattva jigyasa. You should live for inquiring into the absolute truth. Jivasya tattva jigyasa. Sound familiar? That's the beginning of the Vedanta Sutra. The Bhagavatam is the natural commentary. And the very first sutra is Atato Brahma Jigyasa. It's the same as Tattva Jigyasa. And so the Bhagavatam is so wonderful. The very next verse, he tells you what that tattva is. Can anyone say? Vadanti tat? Tattva? Jagyana madhyam? Yeah, these three things. Brahmeti Paramatma, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Which we we learn what they are. So this is how we can attain real peace, and not just peace, but the highest happiness. Of course, what is it? Where is there any happiness without peace? So peace has to come first. Otherwise, if you're in anxiety, you can't enjoy anything. So both of those are available and spoken of in the Bhagavad Gita and explained in detail in Bhagavatam and the other books. So we'll see why, Hiranyakashipu is anything but peaceful. Even though he's dominating the whole world, he's not peaceful because he hasn't been able to kill Hari yet, who killed his brother. So he's always got that, in his mind. And it's very disturbing to try to terrorize everybody, because immediately you become terrorized. What about those who I wasn't able to kill? Now they hate me, so I have to get more and more powerful. There's countries that are living like that now, So this is a very important. Now Prabhupada came to America in the middle of a war, the Vietnam War. And the fact that he so much of the Bhagavatam, second chapter, even you have this idea of peace. But the real important point is the peace starts within you. You can't have peace when you have people who are just total materialists getting together. He often pointed out about the United Nations. What was the thing that he pointed out? That instead of having peace, what's happening? Increasing the flags, which means that they're continuing this illusion of chalking out little parts of the earth and saying, this is ours, this is ours, this is ours. And then suppose they have peace between that. It's like collecting a bunch of street dogs and putting them in a pen and saying, now be peaceful. But Prabhupada actually was able to give peace to his followers who took up, you could feel that. You could feel that you're on it. What did he say on the address? The ecstasy coming from the spiritual platform or something like that, just by chanting. I mean, even the first time, if you're really concentrating and you're sincere. So the real peace in the world cannot come when everyone keeps their false designations. If everyone realizes that no matter what form you are in, especially human form, we're all devotees of Krishna. We're all in the same family. Krishna claims us. I am the seed giving, Aham Bija Palakpita, beginning of 14th chapter. That I am the seed giving father of all living entities. So as devotees, we try to, even the lower plants, the animals and everything, we don't deal with them harshly. We try to, preserve their life if it's threatened. And even the plants and animals, these are very fortunate plants growing in this garden here. They're hearing the holy name, and when they get picked or used, they're used in service of the Lord, so that benefits. So that's the mentality of the devotee, how to engage people in Krishna's service or any living entity in Krishna's service as far as possible. That's to their best interest, and it's also to ours. I read an interesting article recently about how in the medical field, the doctors and the nurses, they're in great anxiety. Why? Because all the healthcare is run by these big insurance companies, and naturally they have one mission in life: to make as much money as possible. And the way they do that is by minimizing the payout when someone is sick. Some they have their own hospitals and everything. So if they can have as few doctors as possible, and if those doctors can speak to people as short as possible, don't waste any time, they can cover more patients. They can, like that. And that's true for the nurses. So minimal nurses, so the nurses that are left, they found that a lot of these doctors, nurses, they enter it because they want to help people. That's one of the big things. They're not gonna, this is the reason. And teaching also. They want to help, So they're not able to do that. They're seeing sick people who they can't see, and they can't give them enough time, and they can't afford the incredible cost of the medications and all these different things. So there's all of this anxiety amongst these people. Some of them are getting burned out and they quit, like that. COVID was a big thing, tremendous demand, But the point is that they found that that those who are able to help others regularly, that their immune system is stronger, that they're much more peaceful in their life. This idea of being able to help others. And this is what's so great about Sankirtan and this whole movement, is that we've experienced it, we've been cured to one degree or another. And we have the medicine, the books and the mantra and the prasadam and everything. And if we can give it out, get a donation to cover the cost of the printing, but still you're helping people, then that's a tremendous feeling of meaning in your life. And that's why this is such a preaching movement. It's integral to Lord Chaitanya's mission. He took the trouble to take, he didn't just stay in Mayapur. He had it going there. They had the kirtan going in the house of Shivas, then they had a mass kirtan. He didn't have to take sannyas. But he felt to want to show the mood of a real Vaishnava is going and helping others, making a sacrifice. So he takes sannyas, the trouble of that, then he goes on a South Indian tour, so that's an integral part of what feeling satisfied, peaceful, and happy in Krishna consciousness is giving it to others. And that's what Sankirtan means. The essence of it is in a kirtan. I'm giving you the holy name, you're giving me the holy name back, we're dancing, and especially you go out and people get interested, they get fascinated, they start dancing. They have these videos of London Sankirtan. They go down in the middle there, and they get everyone dancing and going. So that's real devotional life. That's the character of the devotee, to be able to want to sacrifice his own physical comfort in order to help others be Krishna conscious. And Prabhupada showed what that means, So that's the movement we're in, and it's such a contrast with Hiranyakashipu. He had this whole thing where he was consoling his nephews and everything, and he's speaking transcendental philosophy, kind of, Hiranyakashipu Gita. But it never got to the point where he's really glorifying Krishna, and he, in the translation, the Prabhupada would talk it translates the Atma sometimes as a super soul. But the real Hiranyakashipu, of course, ultimately he's Jai or Vijay, so he gets to go back to Vaikuntha. But in his role as a super demon, he personifies all of these traits of selfishness, Ishvaroham, I am the controller, I am the master, and if you don't like it, then I'll chop your head off. And and we have little demons like that in the world today, who try to take over this and that, and if you don't listen to me, I'll blow you up. I got the atom bomb. And it's such a dangerous world we live in. We have confidence that somehow it'll get through it without blowing everything up. After all, there's supposed to be 10,000 years of Lord Chaitanya's movement, right? That's predicted. So, but it's so the urgency of it. This is the urgency. The verse I quoted last night, Labdvasu Durlabhamidam. Turnam yateta. Just like the Goswami, Turna means at once, without delay. I learned this word first from the Goswami song. What is that? Chaktvat Turna Mashesha Mandalapatin. When they met Lord Chaitanya, they gave it all up. Right? They had high positions and wealth and prestige and everything, especially Rupa and Sanatan. Raghunath had so much money, he could have been what we call a billionaire today. But as soon as they met Lord Chaitanya, now we're going, Tyaktva Turnam Ashesha Mandalapati Shading, endless influence and wealth, they gave it up. Right away, without delay, without saying, well, should I or shouldn't I? Maybe I wait till I retire, I get 65. No. I'm telling you, I was really surprised to learn that both of the Rupa and Sanatan were younger than Lord Chaitanya. He was 24. They took sannyas at 24, and he went, and they met them. But they were a little bit younger. They were already, at 23, 21, they were in the government as the finance minister, the prime minister, because they were so intelligent and so, qualified. So they gave it all up, and became as austere as you could possibly become. They didn't just go to Vrindavan, But they went to Vrindavan and they lived under the tree, a different tree every night. They didn't even have their own tree. This is my tree, you know. No, they just and they put on the kokpin, you know, and rejected clothes, and they ate practically nothing, you know, and they slept practically nothing. All of the four things. What to speak of sex, they didn't have any. That was completely out of the question. So Nidra Hara Vaharakari Bijato, that's one of the songs. They conquered sleep, they conquered eating, they conquered vihara, you know, like sex life. And what did they do? They spent all their time. You know, that's in the verse about Chak Vaturnam. How could they live? Prabhupada tells a story on the tape of a follower of Mahatma Gandhi, top flight lawyer. He was making 50,000 rupees a month. Now a rupee was really worth something at that time. Now it's worth about a penny. But when I went to India first, it was 8 rupees to the dollar. But at that time, Prabhupada described, forget about dollars, you know, there's no exchange. But you could get a kilo, not a kilo, like 80 pounds, I forget what it's called, of rice for like, you know, 3 rupees. I mean, how much it was incredible, you know? So this guy was making 50,000 rupees a month, and to become a follower, a sincere follower, you know, in turn, you know, a close follower of Mahatma Gandhi, you have to also become like that. In other words, renounce. So he quit his job, and he just took on the cloth and everything. Probably couldn't live. He wasn't getting the nectar. He wasn't diving into the ocean of Gopi Baba like the. He couldn't live. He was so accustomed to all of these things. You know, he committed suicide after a couple of months. But the Rupa and Sanatan, they didn't miss anything. You know? Why? Gopi Baba Sambatam Lahari Kalola Magno Muhur. Again and again, at every moment, they're diving and swimming in the ocean of nectar of the gopis' love for Krishna. Now, you know, that's not easy to attain, obviously. But the point is that Krishna consciousness is completely satisfying. You know, and all our aspirations can be fulfilled. There was you know, I learned about these mega churches. Many of them, they preach this prosperity theology, you know, that the whole purpose of worshiping God is so you can become wealthy, you know, and you have to plant the seeds of that wealth by giving me a donation, you know, these guys. And they flaunt it. They buy not just one plane, but they buy as many airplanes as they can get, you know. It's horrific. It's exactly opposite. And all these people are being misguided with their religion, you know. It's very popular. But the church of Sankirtan will ultimately win out. And people will see the genuineness of it all. Okay, any questions or comments on this verse?
Hare Krishna.
All right, just be patient. We got some inside. I'll call on you when you can.
Yes, I can wait, Prabhu, no problem.
Go ahead, Vijayamani.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for a wonderful lecture. I'm wondering about in the further chapters we'll learn about Prahlad Maharaj going to school and preaching to his schoolmates. Yeah. But now we're seeing that Hiranyakashipu is keeping everybody in complete anxiety and everybody's distressed. So I'm just thinking about how is it possible that everyone is so anxious, but there's school going on and.
Well, the ones he's keeping in distress are the demigods. You know, I think within his own palace and everything, he's got everything under control. You know, he's got Chandana Marka, the teachers are there. So he is worried mostly about Prahlad. Prahlad is the wild card. You know, he's doing exactly opposite to what Hiranyakashipu wants. I mean, when he first gave him that verse, you know, Tatsada Munye, that was the first hint that he was a devotee. It must have been a shock. Well, where did he pick that up from? So, you know, it describes he looked at Chandana Marka like they were teaching him, you know. That would have been off with their heads for sure, you know. He said, no, we didn't teach him that. We don't know where he got it, you know. But don't worry, he's just a young boy. We can you know, get it out of him. He's a 5-year-old. He can learn anything, you know. So that was the original thing. But he wouldn't reform. And when he started teaching his classmates, that was the last straw, you know. Then I think it was then he started to want to kill him. Or maybe it was right after he said Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. He's trying to teach him the 9 processes of bhakti. There was a certain point where he became like a diseased tree in a forest or something. So that's the idea. But up until then, he figured that his own, you know, palace and thing, he has it under control, you know. because it didn't compute. The little 5-year-old boy is going to bring down the whole kingdom, you know. But he was. He's going to turn all those kids into bhaktas, you know. So that's the idea. Is that? But as far as the demigods are going, they were in constant anxiety, you know, because they're obviously not his loyal followers, but they had posts that I guess he needed them to, you know, keep doing. So it was a horrifying situation. But we can pray that the Sankirtan movement will be able to counteract the demonic forces that are present in the world today that are trying to take over. And you know, it's like they you know, it's like the global warming is, they have this argument, well, how much percentage of the atmosphere is really carbon dioxide? You know, 400 million parts per, not 400 parts per million, you know, but it's idiotic. Well, if you just get, you know, a couple of milligrams or less, micrograms of cyanide in your body, that's enough to kill you. The percentage doesn't matter. It's how it interacts, you know. So they have these foolish arguments, and people believe them, and then you have whole bunches of people. It's very illustrative, because our philosophy is that everyone who's not a devotee, as Krishna says, falls into this category. Namam dushkritado buddha, pabhadyante naradama, mahiyapita jnana asura bhavamashana. So which one of those would you like to fall into? Mudhas, foolish ass, donkey, excuse me. And the lowest of mankind, someone whose knowledge has been stolen by illusory energy, or out and out demons. None of those sounds attractive to me. So that's what we've got. You know, practically everyone in the world who's not worshiping Krishna. So even if you're religiously inclined, you know, you're going to get misguided. That's one of the first verses of Bhagavatam. Prayana bhajasag sabya kalavasmin yugejana manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya yupadrita. Now, my understanding is that prayana, that carries through all of those qualities. For the most part, prayana means almost everybody is short-lived. Manda, who's lazy in the matter of spiritual life, not interested. So manda matayo, if they are interested, they're misguided, unlucky, and always disturbed, mentally, physically, by diseases, everything. So that's the situation we have, and you can see it. And so, and we have the only antidote, the holy name and everything else that we've been given as Gaudiya Vaishnavism. You can even in this Holocaust, you can have your little island of peace, if you're actually living this verse sincerely. Now you feel the urgency, just like Prahlad. Yes, I'm peaceful and happy. I can change your glories at any time, but I am in anxiety about these fools and rascals who have turned away from you. So let me go preach Krishna consciousness. That's the mood of the Gaudiya Vaishnava. Hare Krishna. Okay, we have one more local. Go ahead, Chad.
That was a great lecture from a pure devotee. Thank you.
No, don't say that. It was neither of those things, but go ahead.
So is the only place that you truly can't come back from Goloka, Vrindavan, in the spiritual kingdom? Because obviously the Vaikuntha planets, we have the example here with Hiranyakashipu that came back from Vaikuntha.
You mean because he's cursed to Jai and Vijay? Yeah, Prabhupada says that. But that whole distinction between, you can come back from Vaikuntha, you can't come back from Goloka, I never accepted that. No. I don't know. I'm just asking. Prabhupada explains his understanding, which should be our understanding of how it works, and it's like he's saying that somehow or other, because of your minute independence, you turn away from Krishna. Now, Vaikuntha, in a larger sense, it includes Goloka. There's passages where it says Goloka is the highest Vaikuntha planet. Vaikuntha simply means a place where there's no anxiety. That's certainly true in Goloka. So I don't say, oh, you can fall from Vaikuntha, but you can't fall from Goloka. I never heard that, if that's somewhere explicit in the books. But the falling is he described it like falling asleep. Falling asleep in Goloka, and dreaming all of your lives here. It's like a big dream, life after life. So it's basically waking up. You have to wake up to reality. And then the more you wake up, the more you're back home, back to Godhead. Even if physically you may be here, what I was reading that yesterday in the class, is that even in this lifetime, even in this life, you can go back to God. It's really a state of consciousness. Just like Prabhupada, he's sitting in 22nd Avenue, but he's saying, I'm not really in 22nd Avenue, because it's very noisy. I used to live in Manhattan, and 22nd Avenue is very, very busy. You have trucks coming down there, and there's lights, and screeching and all this stuff. And you can hear it on these lectures. Prabhupada insisted the door be open. Mostly you hear these little Puerto Rican kids screaming, And then Prabhupada says, can we ask them to be quiet? They lived here, Prabhupada, So there's all this noise. But then Prabhupada at one point says, but I'm not really here, on the 2nd Avenue, I'm back in Vrindavan, because that's where his consciousness is. He's remembering Krishna at every moment like that. So that we can experience that even in this lifetime. And that's what the great devotees, they're living on two planes. Inside their heart, they're rendering their special custom-made service to Krishna, the unique service they have in their form, and they're relishing that. But externally, they're dealing with the material world and preaching. So that's how it works. Okay, Vijay Krishna, go for it.
Yes, Dravida Prabhu, thank you very much. You're most kind. Dandavat pranams. Prabhu, do you mind reciting again the two last sentences of the purport to the text you chose for today?
No, I don't mind. Similarly, if in distress one seeks shelter of a demigod, he is foolish, for his efforts will be fruitless. In all circumstances, one should seek shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm sorry, that's the second to last one. In all circumstances, one should seek shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then there will be no danger under any circumstances.
Yes, those are the sentences. Dravida Prabhu, thank you very much. Dravida Prabhu, you know better than me that Srila Prabhupada used to say that to chant the Mahamantra is similar to a child crying for the love, the help, the protection, and the maintenance of the mother.
Yeah.
But what confuses me is that I have been chanting the Mahamantra, but I am no more a child. I'm 62 years old. So based on this, my exact question is, should I stop chanting the Mahamantra because I'm no more a child? That is my question.
Okay. No, the idea about the chanting in the helpless frame of mind, and calling out like a child, for what? For please engage me in your service. That's the prayer, right? Please, take shelter. Meaning your Sharanagati means you have full confidence Krishna will protect and Krishna will maintain, right? Those are part of Sharanagati. So in that mood, if we chant sincerely, and also we can adopt the prayers of Lord Chaitanya, Nadananda Sundarim. What you don't want is just as important in the prayer. I'm not praying to you for wealth, I'm not praying to you for a nice marriage, I'm not praying for any of that things. All I want is selfless service, ahoitaki, service, birth after birth. I'm not even praying for liberation. So if the mood of your chanting is like that, and you're chanting with great sincerity and concentration, then you're under the shelter of Krishna. And even if there's still some external difficulty in your life, you can take it in stride and realize, okay, this is minimal karma that I'm getting, right? Tattenu kampam susunikshimano, very important verse. And Krishna will protect me in all circumstances. I mean, we've had devotees die in plane crashes, you know? And you can wonder, it was a mother and child, I think, in India a few years ago. I don't know if you know that. Well, what were they thinking? What was going on in their mind as that plane was going down? Usually with a plane crash, you get some warning, right? And so you can just imagine. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Rama. They're taking shelter of that holy name. But in Narayan Maharaj, did you ever tell you about that with the turbulence? He's on his way to India, and he'd been on this Singapore airline before, and he knows when you get near Japan, there's some kind of a thing that happens where it's very likely to get bad turbulence. And so he's sitting next to this woman who was made up, right? And she was ignoring him, and he was ignoring her. He's reading, you know. And then the turbulence came, and it was threatening, it was frightening. She started screaming along with a lot of the other people there. And Bhadrinarayan was very loudly chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. So by the end, afterwards, you know, of course they came through it and finally got to, you know, the turbulence was over. So her, you know, her hat was off this way and her makeup was all undone, you know. And so she asked, well, what were you doing, you know? Because Maharaj just went back to chanting peacefully. He wasn't freaked out, you know. And so and there'd been other devotees in Narahari who was famous for doing that boat in Hawaii. I don't know if you remember that back in the 70s. He also had a near, you know, crash, and he went through it. He told about it, you know. So the idea is that the dangers are going to come in this material world. There's danger at every step, but one can pass through the dangers without being freaked out by the dangers. You know, there's that famous verse, "Nehabikramanastuti prativayana biswapamasidharma trayate mahato bayat." In this practice, there's no loss or diminution. And one who proceeds on this path can be free from the most dangerous type of fear. And actually, when you look at the synonyms in what Prabhupada always explained, the most fearful type of danger. You'll be protected from the most fearful type of danger, which is to lose the human form of life. To go down, you know, to die and get reborn as a cat or a dog or worse. So you're assured of a human form of life, and we know from the 6th chapter it'll be a family where you can continue your devotional service. So this is the faith of the devotee, and Krishna will protect. And so that's how we can, in all circumstances, one should seek shelter of the Lord. Then there will be no danger under any circumstances. So it may seem like a danger, but there won't be that danger of losing the human form of life, which is the greatest danger. And is it really a danger? I mean, we all have to die at one point. But if you're completely absorbed in the holy name, then death has no fear for you. You know, you're just waiting to meet the Vaikuntha, the Vishnu Dutas or the Goloka Dutas or whatever. And so you can actually, that's really the acid test, to pass out of your body completely peacefully. We saw that with Rajendananda Prabhu and Shamali, according to all the testament, that she was very peaceful at that time. Because I saw, you worked in the hospice. You saw people die. I saw a lot of people die in the hospital. I worked for a whole year, and they're anything but peaceful. They're so agitated that most of them are sedated, unconscious, which is the worst thing. Worst thing to have. So that's how we can get free of all danger and sincerely seek. And in any circumstance, to call out to Krishna from the bottom of your heart, please constantly engage him in your service. That's why we're supposed to be chanting all the time, 24 hours a day. That's quite a task. But it means you always feel that connection for Krishna, and you always feel the protection, and you're always feeling blissful. How much nectar has those two syllables Krishna produced? Lord Rupa Goswami says, Tunde Tandavanita team. I just heard Prabhupada on a lecture talking about it. So if you're always feeling that pleasure of chanting the holy name, and you feel protected because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's the Surit, best well-wisher, then where is there anxiety? You're in Vaikuntha already. That's the best I can do, Prabhu.
Yes, just a follow-up question. So the expression "in all circumstances," in accordance with the answer you just gave me, it also means that it doesn't matter how old you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The older you are,
Because when people here get to know that Srila Prabhupada said chanting the Mahamantra is like the crying of a child, when they get old, then they could be there thinking, okay, I'm already too old to go on chanting, because Srila Prabhupada compared the chanting to a child asking for the protection of the mother, so let me stop and do anything else related to my spiritual advancement.
Yeah.
But because after all, it may be that the chanting is only for children or living or people being aged around the age
well,
of
I think
children.
you won't make that mistake, and you're now equipped to disabuse everyone else you meet who makes that mistake or is about to make it. So I think you're well armed with the understanding. Even old men, old ladies, anyone, doesn't matter what age, you should call
Yes.
as helplessly. We are really helpless, and just call out to Krishna, and that's our safest place. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.